Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to episode 14 of On the Virtual Track. I'm your host, JP, and I'm going to be joined in the booth by Jason Wuennecke, part of the J2ICS. That is right, acronym there in the Discord, who I've met before and had the privilege of broadcasting on as well. We're going to dive into it and have a chat with him and see how he's been, how it all started, and where's he planning on going with it. Jason, welcome in, bud. How are you?
Pretty good, man. How are you today?
I'm hot, dude. Over here I don't even know what's going on. Like, all of a sudden we've got sun, which is very unusual. I need to go outside and take a photo. We don't see it that often in the UK. It is absolutely roasted, mate. But what's it like on the other side of the pond?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty okay. It's like 60 degrees out here, sunny. It's nice and cool.
Ooh, I don't think it's that over here, dude. I think it's a little bit more than that.
It's pretty good over here. I mean, last year we were hitting like 115 degrees by now, I think, which was brutal. But this year it's not been too bad so far.
And whereabouts in the States have you been? Or you located?
Portland, Oregon.
Oh, nice. And how's that been?
I moved here about 15 years ago and really never looked back. So actually, no, it's been 20 years now at this point, I think. But yeah, no, it's a cool area. I grew up in the Midwest, and hung out there until about my 25, 26. And moved out here. Oh, I think it was 28, 29. So yeah, been almost 20 years now at this point. So it's a nice area. I like it a lot.
Good, that's all right. And so
mountains on one side, ocean on the other.
Oh, well, it can't be that bad then, can it? Let's be real about it. But when we dive into your journey of sim racing, how sort of far back are we going? We've had different stages of where people are and where it all started. Some have been like, oh, I've only started a few years ago and this and that, and progressed into iRacing. You got the likes of Enquiries that was like 15, 20 years ago, if not more. How far back are we going with you?
Yeah, no, it wasn't that long. I mean, I played racing games when I was a kid, but you can't really call those sim racers or anything.
Yeah, but they're racing games, aren't they? Some people still call iRacing a game.
Yeah, I played. I can't remember. It was on the Sega Genesis. Like it was this Formula One game. Can't remember what it's called. Something GP. Yeah, I can't remember what it is for the life of me. But that was the earliest racing game that I had. And then growing up, Gran Turismo was kind of it for a while, and off and on. But really, where it got going for me was during COVID. Yep. You're stuck inside, you don't have shit to do. And I was playing Gran Turismo, and my wife got me the Logitech steering wheel, for a Christmas present one year, and that was great, and so that was cool for a while. But then the more I started looking into it, I kept seeing this iRacing thing pop up. I never even heard of it before. And everyone was talking, well, yeah, it's a great game. The graphics are a little old, but it's a great racing game. So I like, okay, I'll check it out, and then that was pretty much it, so I've been on that for about 4 years now, 10 grand later, probably for a rig, it's you can call it a money pit, but it's also a hobby that, you spend the money where you want to spend your hobbies, just like anything else. So
yeah, and that's
without the first money pit.
No, that's without the membership, the content, everything else that goes into it as well. I think that's the
cheap
thing.
Shit, man.
Yeah, dude, I agree. Like, I drove like probably for about 4 months, and I built a rig with a mate out of 2x4 wood.
Yeah.
And that was my first rig. And then, of course, it went into broadcasting and commentating, and then before you know it, I'm no longer driving. I no longer have the rig. And I've got a Logitech steering wheel attached to my desk here that when I do need it, I might pull it forward and come and have a go. But how did we get into the whole scenario of iRacing then? Because obviously everybody's journey is a little bit different. You say, are you a Steam iRacing or are you a website iRacing?
I'm not really either. I mean, the website was available when I joined, but they still had like the UI for what it was, when I started.
Yeah.
I started, let's see. I'm trying to think of what was really going on in iRacing when I started, and then honestly, I can't really think of anything significant. You know, it was just kind of, yeah, they're adding a couple cars here and there, adding a couple tracks here and there, but at the time, you know, I don't think they had the player base to really invest in everything like they do now. So it's really good to see, you know, the graphical changes coming, you know, already with the shadowing and the lighting, and you know, everything's really looking better. You know, the GT3 update I thought was pretty cool. You know, so the cars react really nice, and I kind of wish they had that ready for the Nürburgring race last weekend, but you know, I can guess that would be pretty chaotic. Put a new tire model out right before that, or even the patch cycle before that, even give people a couple of months, you know, after
Dude,
a year.
it's been chaotic anyway. It's caused a lot of dramas. I did a broadcast on Sunday that we ended up having issues with the broadcast on Sunday because everybody in the server was getting mad flickering. I couldn't broadcast for Toffee because the cars were just going in and out, in and out, in and out. There was one guy sitting fourth in the safety car line. As the safety car dropped green, he disconnected from the server and his car went and ran over the first three of the safety car line, put them in the wall and smashed them up. It was absolutely bonkers. But with that, there was obviously loads of spinning. There was cars not getting to grips with a new tyre model. We've had people in other series turn around and say, you know, we've changed cars and I've had to take a race ban because I can't get used to the Porsche on the new tyre models. It's gone bonkers, and it's amazing what you're reading.
I don't know what their problem is. I'm really liking it because I think it handles better than it ever did.
Oh, dude, you know, I've only driven one GT3 race. That was last week. During week 13. And I was at Watkins Glen and I thought I'd give the Mercedes a good old blast out. I was fine up until lap 2, and then I went around turn 8, my back end spun, and I ended up smacking a wolf straight on. So, you know, I think everybody's opinion is going to be different on it, and I think they're not looking at the bigger picture. You know, people chant realism. We want realism, and then they get realism. And they go,
I can't fucking drive anymore.
I can't fucking drive anymore. That's the thing. And that was one of the things when the rain came out as well. We want rain, we want rain, we want rain. I fucking hate the rain.
I know. Fucking be careful what you ask for then, you know?
Yeah. You can't fucking please everybody, and that's the thing. So,
no. Some people you just can't please ever.
Oh, dude, you're never going to please.
I think the rain's
everyone.
Great, honestly. It took me a long time to figure it out, but, you know, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in love with it as well. How did the league racing start? Where did that come from?
Honestly, I was really getting bored with official races. You know, I kind of wanted to start looking into like endurance type racing and things like that, you know, and you know, if you're not like doing this with a bunch of different people, you know, you don't have anyone to do it with, honestly. You know, it's like official races is just a bunch of random guys showing up and yelling and swearing at each other and telling each other how stupid they are, and you know, that's being nice about it. You know, so I started looking for leagues, and I joined one that was specifically an endurance league. I won't name them because I didn't think they were all that good, but
fair enough.
You know, what's that?
Fair enough, dude. Fair enough, dude.
You know, but it just kind of seemed like, okay, you joined the league and, you know, you got a few guys that are buddies, but everyone else is just a bunch of randos again. You know, and they just pair you up with someone to go run a race with, and maybe you get someone that knows what they're doing, maybe you don't, you know, unless of course you make your own endurance team. But it was too big for me. You know, you just felt like you're just one of 1,000 people in the league. You know, I don't know how many people they actually had, but it's kind of what it felt like. So I was just browsing Reddit, looking for something, you know, and I found J2I listed on there, and you know, I was looking for a North American league, and these guys were in the right time frame that I wanted to race. You know, wasn't staying up too late, you know, or middle of the day or anything like that when I have to work. So I checked it out and never looked back. Place is great. You know, I love being there. You know, they don't specialize in any one car, which I think is cool. I like the variety. You know, and it's honestly just a low key, bunch of guys shit talking each other. You know, having a good time, and you know, and then compete. You know, just friendly competition. They don't take it too seriously. I mean, it's seriously enough to be fun, but not too seriously where everyone is really really gearing for those top spots. Of course we all are, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think you know what I'm talking about here. Where it's just casual racing, but
Dude,
also friendly
I've
competition.
seen leagues fall apart. I've seen leagues come and go. I've seen people run them into the ground, and I've seen the people be highly successful with them. I've seen
Oh yeah,
every demographic of everything, and it's all single points. An argument starts, and then it just collapses everything. We've had it in a
oh
league
yeah.
I run as well. Lots been going on in that side of things, and I think that's the problem when you find a league like J2ICS who basically will run, they'll have fun. It is serious to a degree, but as you said, nothing that's going to absolutely come across and make you think, oh, I just can't cope with this. But you've gone into this season and they've run the endurance and the sprint this
Mm-hmm.
season as well. We had the GTP to kick off for the endurance, and it was the F3, wasn't it, for the sprint series? Was it the F3 this season?
Yeah,
Yeah,
free.
yeah, the F3 that you guys were running as well. How's your season been? Let's start off with the GTPs. First off, what car did you go with in the GTP?
I went the Porsche. Yeah, if there's a Porsche, I always drive the Porsche.
Okay,
So
and
that's
how did it
like a
go?
no-brainer. It was fun. I think I'm more of a mid-pack driver. So far, this is my second season. I mean, we do 2 seasons every season, but every season is a sprint and an endurance. So this is like my second round of that.
Mm-hmm.
So last year we drove GTEs, and
Yep.
I'd never driven GTEs before, and I wasn't really that good at them, and I was really struggling. But I got better throughout the year, and then this year the GTP, I'd never raced this one either. I was about midfield most of the time. It's a fun enough car, but I think you need a lot of people on the track to really have fun with it. Because otherwise you just get so spread out. And every once in a while you come across a good competition with someone, but a lot of the times you're just hot lapping, especially on these gigantic tracks.
Mm.
And unfortunately, it kind of felt like a lot of the membership had just take a break. People get burned out. And so it's kind of a light season. Still fun, but a lot toward the end. I was just kind of getting like, I just got a hot lap again, on this track, and then I had a couple shitty races. I was like, oh man, I'm just burning myself out. And then the F3, I was a lot better in that car. I thought I'm generally better in formula cars than I am in hardtops, so that was a lot of fun for me. I thought the GTP was a lot of car. I just wasn't really able to get as much out of it as I thought I should be able to. So,
Well, you finished seventh in the
yeah,
sprint series, and you
right.
finished fifth in the GTP series.
Yeah, I figured I finished better in the car that I didn't like.
Yeah,
than
that's
the
where
car
I
that
was.
I
That's
did.
that's
So,
exactly where I was going,
yeah,
Jason. To be
no,
honest with
but
you did better in the car you didn't love.
I think the participation in the sprint series was actually a little bit better. Honestly, I think we had more people.
You had, I can tell you now, there was 28 of you that scored points in the sprint series,
Okay.
and you had, well, yeah, 19 in the GTP. So I'll give
Yeah.
you that there was people missing. I will bow
Yeah.
down to the fucking pressure and say, right, okay,
Yeah.
fair enough on that as well. So, but what's the preparation? Because a lot of people, when they come into iRacing, they're like, right, I'm going to drive everything, and then you never get good at anything. Then other people go, I just want to drive one open wheeler, so I'm going to go through the open wheel pathway, or I'm going to go through the tin tops, or the dirt, or the oval, whatever. How do you guys at J2ICS come across, and when Eric and Nick and all that come out with the new schedule, and they go, right, we're going to go into, I don't know, a Formula V for the sprint series, and we're going to do GT freeze for the endurance. How do you guys prep for that? Because it's a lot of car swapping every season.
Well, this year actually we're going to do one car, and we're not going to flip back and forth every week like we used to.
Right.
So that'll be nice. I did kind of enjoy flipping back and forth because 1 week, I'd practice one track in one car, and then after that, okay, I'm kind of sick of driving this car, and then the next week I get a different car to drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is fun for me to kind of mix it up like that. And every season we have a vote on which cars we want to drive anyway. So like right now it's going on. We have 11, I think, cars that we're trying to decide behind, or trying to decide which to drive. So that vote is going on, and probably in like a week or two we'll get, okay, these are the top 2 cars or top 3 cars, whatever it is. And then we'll do like some practice races with those to kind of see what people enjoy driving around. Whatever one wins out, okay, that's where we're going with this season, and try to pick out the appropriate tracks for that car so it isn't like mismatched.
So what are you hoping for?
I'm
trying to find the car list really quickly.
I can pull it up here. Actually, I kind of forgot, but I
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Let's
6,
see.
Is that 7, 8, 9? Is there 11 of them? Isn't there?
I think so. Yeah. Let me see.
I think I've got it. Is it the USF 2000, the GTE Spec Racer 4, Porsche Cup?
That's the one.
GT3, GR86s, oh my God, FF1600s, that one. Skip Barber, HPD, BMW M2, or the MX5s. What are you coming out for? What are you hoping for?
I'm rooting for the HPD. That's a cool
car.
Why?
Yeah, why?
Well, I just thought it was a fun car to drive, honestly. I actually had never even driven it before, and then Urko from the league or a couple other people too, I think, were talking about how much fun it is. So I bought it and gave it a few laps, and I was like, wow, this thing actually is really fun to drive. So it's definitely probably not something I would drive like in an official race.
It's a legacy car, isn't it? So it's not going to be out at officials.
Well, actually, there is an official race right now. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, dude.
Way. Yeah. Telling fibs. Hold on. Oh my God, there is. It's a Proto GT series. Oh, they're at Road Atlanta. Ooh.
Yeah, let me find it.
Yeah, is there? They're at Road Atlanta.
Yesterday. Yeah, here it is. The Pro GT Challenge by Thrustmaster.
Yeah. Who is this?
So
I never thought
that. I might actually check that out. But when the league is racing, I don't do a whole lot of officials either. So
is that multi-class then?
What's that?
Is that multi-class? Because you've got the HPD, the GT2,
right.
Corvette, and the Aston Martin DBR9.
Right.
Oh, so the question is, which one do you buy?
Well, I've already got the HPD, so I might as well just do that one.
Oh, I'm tempted now.
Yeah.
The problem is what is the uptake on it from? I'll have to have a look when the session comes up in about 25 minutes. So I'll have to have a look and see what the upkeep is, because there's always that thing with certain cars when they go to legacy and they still run a legacy series, and then you can't get an official official race with it.
I'm looking at the results right now, and it's pretty empty.
Yeah.
Looks like during the day there'll be a couple full sessions of 10 to 15 cars, and everything else is like 1, 2, 3, 4 cars. So that does kind of suck.
It doesn't bode well, does it?
No, not really.
No, definitely doesn't.
Same thing with the Skip Barber, I think, too. It's a fun little car, but I don't think ever since the Formula Ford came out, it really gets the action that it used to.
Oh, mate, we've talked about this before, and I put a post out on X about it as well. And with all the GT3s and the GTP updates and the new cars that have come out that have been GT3 and GTP, are we running Le Mans Ultimate 2.0?
I know there's a reference there somewhere, but I've never played Le Mans Ultimate.
Le Mans Ultimate is purely GT3 and GTP.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think with the more that they bring out of the GT3s and the GTPs, the more it becomes a one series almost game.
Yeah, I don't know if we have that problem with iRacing at this point. I mean, there's you do have some of the series from older cars that just don't see the participation, and those cars fall off, and just like in real life, things come and go, right? So, but yeah, you got a lot of GT3s, but there's a lot of Formula drivers out there too that really enjoy that. There's a lot of NASCAR folks,
I know what you mean.
But yeah, I mean the GT3 is definitely the main car, the main series, I would say. But it's also, I think, a car with a low barrier to entry too.
Yeah. I think there's been multiple people who've spoken to that have all just been a little bit worried about the fact that obviously, there's a lot of series that aren't being touched and updated and stuff like that. And I think that's the interesting thing that, needs to be worked on. But
yeah, I actually don't have that concern at all. I mean, there
you're
are a
very,
lot of
you're
series out
very
here that get
few.
run, and I mean some of them don't very much, but a lot of them do. So
Well,
I don't know.
You're one of
I
a
don't think it
very
concerns me at
short
all.
few there, dude. Who I've spoken to who don't seem to have that concern as well. But when we sort of dive into your iRacing journey and your iRacing career, and well, I don't even know if you can call it a career. However you would simplify it. Where do you see all of this going? Have you set yourself a target and thought, I just want to be as quick as Bob, or I want to be whatever. Is there a target for you? Because I was speaking a few weeks ago, and Matt Warner, it was, he was like, right, I want to be as quick as Tommy Patero, and Tommy is fast, dude, like rapid. And they were having a great little ding dong in the final round of the championship, actually, and come down to the final round. Is there a set sort of goal you set yourself and think, right, I'm going to go and work towards that?
I mean, sometimes, no one races to come in last, obviously. I want to get faster. I want to win races.
I get used to it.
I want to compete against other, I want to be competitive against other people. But, no, not really. I mean, I'm just in it to have a good time, honestly, I obviously wouldn't have spent all this money on equipment if I wasn't having a good time with it and wanted to be better. And, because the high end stuff really does help you drive better than you normally would with like a Logitech steering wheel and pedals.
See, I'm going to doubt that. And the reason I'm going to doubt that is I knew a guy once who drove Radicals, and his name at the time was Dennis Kyriakopoulos. Now, don't get me wrong. When I first come across his surname, it took me ages to blink and get it right. Okay. And he used to drive on a G920 with socks, and he was rapid.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there are people that are lightning fast on that kind of stuff. I could never pick it up like that, though. I drove on a Logitech for years. I had this whole rig built, still on a Logitech wheel.
Are you on triples or are you on single long widescreen?
No, I got triples. I actually got a fourth monitor up top here.
Yeah.
But like I had the triples. I built my own pedals. I had the haptics. I had the rig. I had all the monitor. I had everything. And I was still driving on a Logitech wheel after all that because I figured, like I wanted the immersion. I wanted the wraparound view. The wheel didn't really matter to me all that much. Until it did. I was like, okay, it's time to get a wheel. So I did. I sold my motorcycle to do it because I almost got killed on it, and that was enough motorcycling for me at that point. Almost getting flattened was like, okay.
I feel there's a story in there. Go on, tell us about it then, because how does that go that all of a sudden you've decided to sell a real life motorcycle to get a wheel for a pretend race car?
Yeah, I was in an intersection trying to turn left, and the sun was in my eyes, and the light was about to turn red. I kind of needed to get out of the intersection so people could go. And there was a big Ram truck coming, steaming full steam ahead at me. And I thought he was slowing down. He was speeding up, and I miscalculated. And I was honestly inches away from dying right then and there. And if I hadn't gotten on the gas in the middle of that turn, I would have been a smear on the fucking pavement. And that was enough motorcycling for me at that point. So,
Fuck. Would you sit back
like,
and go?
I could see the ribs in the radiator on the front of that fucking truck coming at me.
Was
That's how
it
close it
so?
was.
If you were sitting there going, right, it's his fault, my fault, where would you put it?
Both. There's definitely blame to go around. You know, I misjudged what he was doing, and I don't think he was paying attention to me even being there. So,
By the fucking sounds of it, mate, you weren't paying attention to a lot if he was speeding up.
right. So, you know, it was kind of like a wake up call to me too. You know, like if I fuck up once, that could be the end of it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because you know, you ride a motorcycle, you try to be aware, you really try to avoid people, and you know, you really got to pretend that everyone's out to kill you because they are.
Basically.
You know, but no matter how much of that you do, there are times where you misjudge things. You know, you still make mistakes.
Yeah.
And all it takes is a mistake at the wrong time for everything to be over. You know, if you're not dead, you could be severely crippled the rest of your life, you know, and it was fun for a while, but it wasn't worth my life to do it, you
No,
know.
dude, I think that's the thing. I had, you know, my wife, I'm banned from motorcycles. She won't, not fucking out. She's like, if I give you a motorcycle within 7 days, I'm fucking visiting you at the fucking morgue. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's not even because I'm you know, it'd be stupid. She goes, you know, that's the same philosophy. You just don't know what the other fucking person's going to do around you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I tell you, that's exactly it. You can't control everything around you.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had some close calls before with people like turning right in front of me and, you know, almost T-boning them with the bike, you know, and things like that because they don't see me or whatever. You know, but those were all like, okay, I saw it coming, you know, I could avoid it. You know, this one was just straight fuck ups all around. And, you know, I actually got home and, you know, my wife could tell there was something wrong with me, you know, because I just like, hey, how's it going? You know, I didn't say shit about it for hours, you know, because I was still just processing all of that when it happened, you know. So, and then later on at night, you know, I finally told her, you know, I said, man, I almost died today. You know, this is after, you know, I took a couple edibles. I'm like, you know, I gotta calm down a little.
Yeah.
So I started having like, you know, like when you're watching a movie, you know, like the main character's dead and they don't realize they're dead, you know, kind
Dude,
of thing.
I feel your pain. I tell you
And I
what,
was like,
there's
I
been,
just need you to tell me that I didn't die in that crash.
yeah,
You know,
that's the thing. I think there's so many
you know,
different variables of it as well. So,
yeah.
what wheel did you end up picking up from the sale of the motorbike?
I got a SimiCube 2 Pro and I got a GSI FPE version 2. So that was a pretty nice purchase there. And you know, honestly, since I got it, driving is much more enjoyable in the rig too. You know, and like going back to what you were saying with the Logitechs, you know, like yeah, a lot of people are super fast on those things. I was not. You know, like I couldn't feel the car. I could visually see what was happening, you know, but I had a really hard time turning visuals into, you know, being faster. And then once I got this thing, it's actually kind of funny. I wasn't even really using it to its potential up until recently, because there was this thing called high torque mode on the SimiCube, and I had that turned off the entire time. I had no freaking idea it was even there. You know, so I turned
Does it
that
make a
on.
difference? What is it?
What was that?
What is it? Does it make a massive difference?
Oh yeah, it just ups the force on the wheel, and you feel a lot more details. Otherwise, it just feels soft. And I was driving around like that for months. And don't get me wrong, it was still better than the Logitech, but once I turned that high torque mode on, then I can actually feel all of the road. I can feel the tires sliding. I can feel the cracks. I can feel the bumps. You know, if I go over a curb, you feel that in the wheel. You know, it really jerks it out of your hand sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially in cars that don't have power steering, like, you know, the F3, F4. You know, they feel really raw. And once I started doing that and being able to feel the car, then my driving just became a lot more consistent. I'm putting in better lap times. It's more fun. All kinds of stuff, and you watch people on YouTube like, oh, the wheel ain't going to make you faster. But it will make you more consistent. Yeah, it will make you more consistent. But for someone like me that I need the tactile feedback. Yeah, it did make me faster, so, I'm not super fast. I mean, there's even guys in the league that, I'm a second or two a lap behind still. I mean, they're crazy.
Yeah, there are some quick guys in that league, dude.
No, yeah, it's like ridiculously quick.
Yeah, the likes of Will, Nick, Jaden, Eric,
Yeah.
they're all fucking fast, bro. And for you to even get to where you got to at 7th in the sprint and 5th in the endurance is a massive achievement in general. And I think a lot of people put a lot of focus on results and where they are and where did you come and did you improve and stuff like that. And I kind of sit back sometimes and I think to people and go, look, doesn't matter if you came 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Did you have a good time doing it? Well, right. Yeah. So there you go. That's all that matters.
I mean, my best race this year was in the sprint. I finished 4th when we were at the Hockenheim ring. I could have probably finished 3rd, but I got a little squirrely with Nodovan because, normally I can't hold the candle to this guy, but this race I was keeping up with him. And there was on the hairpin, probably 4 or 5 laps in, maybe I'm like, you know what? I can outbreak this guy in this car. So I almost got around him.
And that didn't go so well.
Well, I mean, it went okay-ish. I didn't get ahead of him. And I lost 3rd, to someone else and ended up finishing 4th because, I got up beside him. We made the corner together. We were going wide and my tire hit one of the curbs and it made me kind of lose some traction a little bit of time. But then I got back in line and just kind of followed everyone around the track at that point, finishing 4th. But, that was fun. It got some, close racing toward the front of the pack. And, that was a new experience in the league. I've won a couple of officials, but typically in the league, like I don't finish that well, at least not 4th anyway. So yeah, that was a good time. It wasn't really about, oh man, I got to beat this guy. I got to get better than this guy. I got to get better than this guy. No, it's just like, it was an opportunity to race. And, that's the thing that I enjoy. It's not necessarily having to finish 1st or 2nd or 3rd all the time. It's just, can I go out there and have some fun against some people?
So what's the plan for the upcoming season?
Oh, I don't know yet. Honestly,
are we car dependent? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, some of these cars I've never driven before. Some of them I've driven quite extensively. Like I learned I learned a lot driving the Skip Barber when I first joined the service. Drove a lot of the Mazda. I've driven a lot of GT3, but other than that, I've never really driven any of our cars in here. So, except, just to kind of screw around once in a while. We did GTE last season, but I'm hoping we don't do it again already. Kind of want to wait.
It's a bit quick, isn't it? Let's be real about it. And I think
I want to have a little more variety before I go back to GTEs again.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting for me to see you all in a spec racer because I think that would be
that's a fun little car.
Yeah, fun little car to go and have a go at. MX-5s, I love MX-5s. I think they bring some of the best racing I've ever watched on iRacing.
I'm hoping for the MX-5. I think it was my number 2 choice. Yeah, behind the HPD. So
I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think that would be awesome, and I think there you go. Would you sit back and do you want the HPD more than the MX-5, or you don't care between the two?
No, I don't really care. Yeah, either one. I don't really know what kind of racing the HPD would have, honestly, because I've just never driven it. I mean, it's quick, but it's not like super quick, and it feels a little more raw than a lot of the other cars, like the GTPs that we did this year. But I like slower cars too because they might not be like as fun to watch, but the racing on the right track can be great.
It's awesome. It can be absolutely awesome, and I do agree with you.
The Formula Ford, like around like the Charlotte Roval. That's a hell of a lot of fun. That's just a fun course in general for open wheelers, I think.
Well, I was
The
just
MX5.
looking. Yeah, I was just looking at the first MX5
Yeah.
race, and it's at Lime Rock,
Yeah.
and that would be so much fun. I might have to even give that a go after this, just to see
That
how
was
I'd go.
actually my first. I think Lime Rock was my first Mazda race that I ever did on the service. On that Lime Rock. Yeah.
I think that would be awesome.
That's a fun little course, and the racing is slow enough where people can generally control the car. The cars are all basically the same because there's not really a lot of setup on them or anything like that, except for maybe the roll bar or something. But it's just a fun little car to drive.
I think so. I think it would be as well. Where do we go though when we get a hold of you and say to you, right, tell us a bit about yourself. What do you do outside of sim racing? What do you do in the real world, should we say, when you wake up in the morning?
Well, I get up and go to work like everyone else does, unfortunately. But I'm an Olympic weightlifter. I've been doing that for 15 years. That's a lot of fun. I'm actually getting off of a shoulder surgery that I had back in September, October. So I've been kind of laid up for a while. Been getting back in the gym the last couple months. So that's been really nice for my mental health.
2 seconds. You're an Olympic.
I'm not an Olympic athlete, but in the United States, we call it Olympic weightlifting. Otherwise, everyone thinks it's powerlifting.
Oh, okay.
So it's really just weightlifting, clean and jerk, snatch, that kind of a thing.
All right.
So unless you specify Olympic weightlifting, everyone thinks it's just powerlifting. Like,
I thought you was there like America blinking, lifting, going for it. I'm fucking asking. I don't fucking know. You said Olympic weightlifting. What am I supposed to do here? You know what I mean? But the interesting thing as well, because when you Google your name, it comes up with the openweightlifting.org as well. Now, I don't obviously know fucking if this is you as well, but obviously it comes up with the Olympic weightlifting competition history and statistics for Jason Wuennecke. So we can have a look here as well.
All the time, man.
Yeah, we can have a look. The best snatch is 73 kilos.
Yep.
Apparently, best clean and jerk is 92 kilograms.
Yep.
The best total is 165, and the best Sinclair. Now I have no idea what that fucking means. Is 175 as well. What the fuck is a Sinclair?
It's a really complicated formula that I couldn't even begin to describe.
Okay,
but
well,
basically what it does is it compares your lifting total against your body weight and age, and gives you like this number. And it's like a relational number, to instead of like, so if you have someone that's like 20 years old and lifts X amount of weight, and you have someone that's 30 years old that lifts the same amount of weight, and also they have different weight classes, it's supposed to be a way to determine who actually won the competition, or if, like, say you're in the same weight class and someone is, say, they weigh 65 kilos and the next guy weighs 70 kilos. Well, the guy that weighs less, that lifts the same amount of weight, is going to win, so. So it's a big formula. You could probably look it up. I don't even know what the math is on that.
Dude, I've got a little bit lost on what you was explaining. So no offense. I was really just trying to figure out this fucking stat sheet that made no sense to me whatsoever as well. So you do that. How did that all come about? Because again, it's not something that, generally you wake up and you go, I want to go and lift weights.
Oh man, I was really, really fat when I was younger. I've years of depression and Mountain Dew and cigarettes, I put on a lot of weight. I bet you I was probably 330, 340 pounds, during the height of it. And, I was dating this girl, right? And, she dumped me after a few months, and, we were both kind of train wrecks at that point in our lives. And I was like, man, she didn't even give me the courtesy of a fucking goodbye. She just left me a letter on my apartment and left me to be there,
Nice.
I had anger issues,
She's a nice woman to meet. That's fine. You know what I mean?
She was nice enough, but she had her own issues. We both did. We both had our own issues, and at the time I was pissed off, but looking back, not at all, because, it was kind of a wake up call, because, part of what she mentioned was that I had anger issues, and I didn't realize I had anger issues. I was just generally angry at things all the time, because I just hated my life and I hated myself, and I said, I gotta lose a couple of pounds. And, I had this buddy of mine, he got me into cooking for myself, instead of just instant shit all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I started eating a lot better. I started taking joy in cooking my own food, and, and I started losing weight. And then I went to, the gym in my apartment building at the time. And, I spent probably 5 or 10 minutes on the elliptical machine, and I was gassed. I had nothing after 5 or 10 minutes on the easiest machine in the gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went home, and then I took a nap for 2 or 3 hours because I was so tired and out of shape. But I'm like, fuck it, okay, I'll go back, and then I kept going back, and I kept going back, and then that got easy. And then I started going to the gym and lifting weights, and I bought this book called Starting Strength, basically how to bench, how to squat, how to press, and or deadlift. And I started doing that for a while, but then that got boring. So then I started doing CrossFit, and after a while, I'm like, yes, CrossFit stuff's okay, but what I really like is the weightlifting part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't really like all the running around and all that shit, and I understand it, it gets you in pretty good cardio shape, but so I went and found at the time, I think it was the only weightlifting gym in Portland. It was called PDX Weightlifting. Eventually became Vulcan Weightlifting. And so I started getting coaching from those guys, and honestly just never looked back. And it was like the best shit I'd ever done in my life. It was fun. The people were cool. I didn't get bored because there's always something to improve upon. You can always do things better. You can always get stronger. Well, to a point. And I just thought it was great. So I've been doing that, for the last probably 15 years now. And I've had a couple surgeries in that time. I've had both my shoulders fixed because, I did stupid shit when I was younger, and so I'm coming off the latest shoulder surgery, and I'm kind of hoping to get one last competition in before I'm 50. So that would be kind of nice. I can't quite do everything the way I want yet, but my shoulder's getting better and better every day. So I put on a few pounds in the last in the last few years, because trying to lift with shoulder pain is really hard to do. And you get depressed because you can't really do what you want because everything hurts all the time.
Dude, you get like that when we get old, mate. You wake up every day, there's a new fucking pain that you didn't have the day before. Right?
And all the same fucking pains I had the day before.
Exactly. You wake up and all of a sudden you got all the ones that you already had, and then all of a sudden there's a fucking new one. And you're just, it takes me 10 minutes or so to get out of bed because I fucking sit there for about 5 minutes going, right, come on, knees. You can do this. I played fucking football when I was a kid, and we were running up and down on the fucking football pitch in the winter and stomping like elephants. And I've had keo on both knees. I've had tendon operations, and now it's just like, fuck.
I hope I don't need to get my knee ever fixed.
Dude, it's the worst fucking feeling. I still suffer with cramp and locking up now, and it's just like, that's just a point of where you turn around and go, right, okay. There's something. I've got to be able to do something here to try and do this. And in the end, there's fuck all, because you just end up going in for more hospital surgery, and it's just an absolute pain in the ass. So what else, apart from the weightlifting side of things, what else do you sit back and thoroughly enjoy? First up, though, we have got to clarify, what do you do for a living?
I'm a systems admin at a college.
Okay.
So, well, I mean, it's Portland Community College.
Is this one of these ones that is really shit and boring, and you explaining it to us would not do well? Because I think I was speaking to, oh, fuck me, who was I talking to? I was talking to someone, and no, I was actually last week talking to Connor Pink, and he was a engineer. And I said, oh, that sounds cool. No, it's fucking not, James. Nobody wakes up one day and says, I want to be, I think it was, I'm going to say telecoms engineer, but I think there was another fucking title to it. And he was like, no, James, it's not fucking interesting. So first off, is your job interesting?
It is at times, there's times where it's just dog shit, like any job,
Yeah.
But there's like this project I'm working on now, we're replacing our disaster recovery and backup systems, and I got to migrate the entire college over to the new one and get everything up and running again. That's like, it's not necessarily the most interesting thing in the world, but it is super important.
Yeah,
these things aren't getting backed up and something happens. So guess what? There's no more school,
Yeah, it's a really tough one because, with anybody's job, there's always something, there's always something with my fucking job. There's times when it just drives me absolute bonkers. And there's always something for everybody's job to basically sit back and go, fuck it, I've had enough of this as well.
There is that, but it's not because of the job. It's just because I've been working for so goddamn long. I'm just sick of working in general, Like, fuck. It's like, I as soon as I was able to work, I was working, before I was even out of high school.
Yeah.
And now I'm 47 and I got 20 more years of just grinding away, unless like by some miraculous miracle, my stocks come in, and I can retire, right?
Yeah, it's always the way, dude. It's unfortunately one of these things. You got to work, you got to earn, you got to fucking pay your bills. Unfortunately,
right.
you start working, your bills start going up, and then
right.
And
it's either work or be homeless, So I'd rather still work, but God, I just feel like so much of my life is just spent just working all the time, and it's not. Don't get me wrong. The job that I have now, it's the best job I've ever had. It's not even close, to other positions I've been in. The team I work on is great. I'm not micromanaged. I come in, I do my work, I leave. People pretty much leave me alone. I work from home, which is great. Because that gives me back, 8 to 10 hours a week of not having to get to and from work all the time. And And then when you do get there, you're in IT, so they stick you in the basement in the sensory deprivation chamber.
Yeah.
So
fake light going on.
Yeah. So it's not a bad job at all. Don't get me wrong. I'm just burned out on working in general.
Oh, dude, everybody gets like that as well. So if iRacing come to you now, James, we're going on to the one car, one track that you would like to see in iRacing. Doesn't matter what fucking car it is. What car would you put in iRacing?
Oh shit, man! There's already so many. I don't even know. Honestly, there's so many cars in iRacing. A lot of them I never even heard of before I started doing this. Every track I'm even aware of is already in iRacing. So anything new is like, oh, I didn't even know that track existed. They did come out with PIR last season, which is the home track. So that was kind of cool to see.
Portland International.
I don't know how to answer that question because there's just such a big
You haven't got one car that you would like to see in iRacing you can think of. It doesn't even have to be a GT car. It doesn't have to be a racer car. Is there one car that you would not want just to see go in iRacing?
Okay. I guess if I had to pick something, maybe karting. Those little carts. But the iRacing has a lot of big tracks for just the tiny car,
Well, you stick it like Sukubu, Lime Rock, Oran Park. You possibly even could throw the Red Bull in because that's not exactly a massive circuit, to be blatantly honest with you, well. That would be quite cool. I'd love to see it around like Martinsville. That would be fucking awesome.
But as far as racetracks go, I can't even name a race car off the top of my head that already isn't in the service. So. I was never a big racing guy before doing this. I got into Formula One because of, Netflix, like a lot of people did. And, I've gotten into watching, the endurance, WEC and all those guys.
The WEC stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. But again, all those cars are already in the game. So it's hard for me to say what I would want to see because I don't even know what the other options are.
Okay, fair enough, dear sir. Fair enough. As well, it's going to be an interesting one on that one. So, what's your plans going forward now? Is it still sort of do J2ICS, stay there, and then see what goes on, or are you going to be looking at other options as well? Is there any other leagues that you would be looking at driving in?
No, not really. J2I is a pretty good fit for me right now. The races once a week. I get lots of time to practice. Good chat. There's good conversation to be had. And Wednesday night comes around. It's kind of like I'm just hanging out with my buddies. Doing some races, and that's it.
Did you do officials?
There might be some more competitive leagues in the future, but right now I don't care.
Do you do officials?
Yeah, once in a while. Yeah, more during the off season. I did last week. I did like you. I jumped into a GT3 last week and raced at Okayama, and that was a lot of fun. The officials for me are kind of like a mixed blast. Sometimes they're great, right? You get in there, you get some good racing in, and sometimes it's just like,
shit.
Why did I waste my fucking time on this?
Yeah. Dude, I feel you, bro. Yeah. I feel you. It is the same across everybody, and I think everybody is in the same boat. You can either have one more day where you have an amazing session, and then you have another day where it's fucking shit, and you lose 500 IR, and you ain't done fuck all about it, and your SR's plummeting quicker than a tart's underwear, and that's the thing. It's just so varied, isn't it? And that's the that's the options. You either go for SR, you either go for IR, but you go for both, and it's all going to go.
I stopped going for either one of them, honestly. When I get into a race, it's just like I'm just here to race. Fuck the points. If I get some good racing, and I get some good racing, and if I don't, well, there's always tomorrow, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I do agree with you. I think that's the best
way. If I go in there with expectations of, I need this safety rating, I need this I rating, I need to finish in the top 5. And I just get frustrated because it doesn't obviously always happen. Sometimes I get wrecked just on the formation lap. So I go into official with no expectations. Whatever happens, happens. And then you just move on to the next thing.
I think you are. That's probably the best way to go. I think you can't really sit back with any other thing and go, look, I'm going to go in for this, because it never fucking works out, dude. Right. And that's the thing. I think it's just all hit and miss as well. And it is what it is.
Yeah. And honestly, if I go into a race with that attitude, I usually come out a lot better anyway, because I'm not really forcing myself to make moves that I shouldn't make with the possibility of wrecking myself, because I'm not trying to get that last point, trying to, whatever. So, I'd rather just go race, have fun. If I crash, I crash. If someone crashes into me, whatever, that's racing. It happens.
I agree.
You're never going to get away from that, no matter what you do. So,
Dude, I fully agree with you, and I think that's a great point that everybody and gives us a good ending point as well. Go out, enjoy yourself. If you crash, you crash. If you don't, you don't. And if you win, you win. And if you don't, who gives a fucking shit? You're not going to change the world. So there we go.
I'll get up and come back tomorrow.
Exactly. So Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure having a chat with you. Near enough an hour already, dude. So amazing how it's flown by, just chewing the shit as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on episode 14 here with Jason Wuennecke. It's been a very interesting, insightful way into how to approach iRacing as well. Don't forget, if you want to get involved, all links down below. This will go out pretty much straight away onto Spotify, and it will go out on YouTube as well. So join us after that one over on there, and leave your comments down below. But Jason, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, dear sir.
Thanks, man. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Take care and have fun. And you never know, we might see you soon. Good night.